that like and that's the point I was just trying to make in regards to like, okay, so like if you're trying to find the point of like good can come from chaos and that's why you would instigate chaos.
Mm-hmm.
And instigate
Mm,
instigate chaos. That
that
makes
works.
sense, right? Yeah. So then I'm gonna
That,
say that Seth killing Osiris is proof that people look to chaos for like good sources and like
mm-hmm.
for good
So
to
you're
come of
making like a
chaos.
moral relativist argument, kind of.
Yeah. I mean, you can't extrapolate anything from anything, but if
Right.
you're looking hard enough, you can find
Right.
something within
And
it.
you're kind of pointing out what postmodernists say,
Mm-hmm.
or a part of postmodernism.
I don't know what that is, but yeah.
It's the idea that if if language is all subjective,
Mm-hmm.
then like stories and language is like meaningless, basically, because you can just pull whatever you want out of it.
But that's
I think they take it too
that's
far,
too far for
but
sure.
I think it's a similar thread
Yeah.
where you can pull anything you want out of anything
Yeah.
if you really try.
Well, and there's times when that's like really crucial to have that skill. Like when you're making a movie, if you look at some of the like famous directors and just filmers and stuff, the colors they use in sets says a lot. And I don't remember the movie and I don't remember, the story or anything of that, but I remember in one of my film classes we talked about why did this director make this one door out of the entire movie bright red? And it was to demonstrate like power and to demonstrate that the main character was walking from like his normal life into a life of just like chaos and unknown. And like, yeah, you're right. You would be correct in extrapolating meaning from the red door, but that's like an artistic choice. When you're talking about things like texts, like religious texts, it's not an artistic choice that Jesus died on the cross. That's not what that is. It's not. That's not just a story for artistic. What does this represent? No. There's a true martyr meaning behind that, and
I think
more often than not explained in the text.
Right. And I think there's something similar that can happen with psychology, which is where he's coming from, is psychologists can look for things that are useful for us, for how we live.
Yeah.
So maybe something that he's doing is looking at these stories and pulling out what can be useful or like what can be learned from them that's useful. And then saying that that's what it represents. Does that make sense? Yeah, it's kind of like a pragmatic argument. That's like, well, we read these and if he's maybe assuming that they're doing it because it's useful, then like, here's the useful thing that you can get out of it.
Yeah.
Which is like why we can find a lot of what he talks about in this, even if we disagree with some of the stuff, we can be like, oh yeah, the thing he's talking about there, spot on.
Yeah.
Like facts. You can't ignore evil.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
At the same time, though, is that what the Egyptians meant by it?
Right. And I think, and I guess this statement ultimately becomes a critique more than anything else.
Sure.
We both know that Jordan Peterson is brilliant.
Yeah.
And I think he has thoroughly proven his point thus far. So to derive more, what's the word? More support for his point from religious texts is one such a bold move that I would argue he doesn't necessarily succeed in. Two is completely unnecessary for his point.
I think we talked about, I think it is necessary for his argument.
Why?
Because if you remember back when we first started this book, the whole thing that he's trying to do here is combine all these myths and stuff and religions with the empirical world.
Yeah.
So that he can say that there's some connection. He's trying to solve, we talked about it, the is-ought problem.
Yeah.
What is versus what ought to be. He's pretty much trying to solve that. He's trying to connect the two here.
Right.
So we know he's not going to be successful, but I think that it is absolutely necessary that he goes through the religions
to achieve what he's trying to. Okay.
He won't do it successfully, but I think it does have to happen.
And I get what you're saying, and I think that's just like that ultimately becomes the fundamental problem that we'll see
Mm-hmm.
Again, you've read it and I haven't, so that's my assumption, is it's going to be a fundamental problem that we'll see, is that it's going to just not work in his favor, and it's going to end up like almost immediately in the book like faltering everything. So then by the end of it, it's like he came to a conclusion that he like fundamentally missed the mark on, which is,
and
like,
I don't know how he's gonna end the book. He might just say,